Hello, welcome back to another edition of The Creative Quarantine, born out of necessity and fueled by imagination. And this time, we're gonna be stick weaving. All right, let's see what we're gonna need. We're gonna start with the obvious and go with a stick. Anything you can span across will work. You're gonna need some type of a needle. I started with some bobby pins. The curved one works a little bit better, getting under. I then cheated and made a needle. You can buy these. If you're looking for one, you want something with a big enough hole that you can put yarn through. Not necessary at all, but sometimes helps. A crochet hook. And then you're going to need something to cut, so either an X-Acto knife or your household scissors. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to start, and one of those does use glue. After that, it is your weaving material, and there's a lot to choose from. I start everything out by either using a cotton or a twine, but past that, for the actual weaving, you've got stuff that's like a nylon, you've got colored twine, you can use strips of cloth, of course yarn, even this yard marker, and ribbons. So pretty much anything that you can manipulate to weave will work. All right, now that we know what we need, let's get creating. All right, now that we're ready to get going, the first choice you have to make is what you want it to look like. So this one here, I use the white cotton twine. Looks good with this design, but it is very contrasty, stands out and noticeable from a distance. These ones here, I used a jute twine, and as you can see from the brown nature of the twine, it tends to blend into the stick more and much less noticeable from a distance. This is generally what I tend to lean towards. All right, we're going to get going with the quick start method. For that, you're going to need a branch that recently came out of a tree, so something that's still alive. My neighbor had a branch fall, and luckily I got to cut it up. And with that, you can see that it has some really good strength and bounce to it. That bounce is going to lend itself to some really good tension, especially when you combine that with the stretchiness of the white cotton twine. So, some things to look at before you get going. I like to start up a little bit from here, go up about maybe 2 inches. Every stick is a little bit different. I like to start on the thicker side, and on the whatever side you start with that you put that knot on, you're only ever going to want to do 1 wrap. The opposite side of that, you're going to do 2 wraps. And then the other thing to look at is how much weaving do you want to do? Do you want to do this whole thing and do a lot of weaving, because that does take some time, or do you want to do just a little bit? If you're going to do just a little bit, go ahead and cut off the tops so you don't have a lot of excess hanging out there. All right, so if you're going to be doing a longer one, I like to leave everything attached to the ball itself, so that way I'm not cutting myself short. All right, so we're going to go up, like I said, about 2 inches and put a good knot in there. And that's going to be my starter side, so my single wrap side. I'm going to go straight across or up slightly, and because the knot is up higher on this side, I want to go on the lower side here. So that way I'm doing a figure 8. I like to put my finger there to keep tension so I don't lose anything as I work my way up. And there's my double wrap. And there we go. We're going to go over under, go up just a little bit. Now I'll hold that side underneath. And this is where you just slowly keep working your way back up. Now you want to keep an eye on the lower side as you work your way up, because you don't want to pull too tightly on this side and lose all that tension that you have down here. Because then you either have to work it back out or start all over again. And you can see on that one, I didn't do the figure 8. And I want to keep fairly even spaces between them as I go up. So that way everything looks fairly even as you're weaving in and out. And then once you get to the top, you do a knot just like you did at the bottom, cut this off, and you are ready to go. On to method 2. So this is the prep work method. So this one takes a little bit more work, but I find it to be much easier when actually doing the weaving aspect of things. So I don't like to cut branches out of the tree. I like to find them on the ground, which means that they're dead and they're a bit weaker. So this one has a little bit of bounce, but I'm not squeezing like I was on the other one. So anything you can weave across, but you got to be careful because this has a lot of bounce, but not going to give you the tension that a live branch does. Plus, they are much easier to snap. So, with that, I like to use the twine because it blends in. Again, I like to start up, and it doesn't matter what side you start on, but start up from that bottom of the Y. And I do generally one wrap around the back with a knot, and then come back around to the front and knot it twice. Nothing special, just an over-under. And then I try to pull it a little bit tight. Be careful because it is easy to snap the branch at that point. And then I like to go past where I need it and cut it off. Then I'll go up just a little bit on that same side that I started on, working my way up, doing that same method. Pulling it that way, so that way the knot has a direction to it. And again, measure past where I need it, cut it off, and then I'll keep doing that as far up as I want to go. And then I can always hold it across to kind of see where those would land. And with this method, you could actually get a bit crazy with that angle on it if you wanted to go that way. But then you can kind of see where you need to stop. So then I like to go through and cut off the extra tails. And then this is where the Elmer's glue comes in. I like to put them right on the knot, maybe a little bit behind all the way around, and back on the knot again. Like so. And then I'll take my fingers and kind of work it into the string. And you see it on the branch right now, but when it dries clear and you can't even tell that you had glue on there. It will make the string hard in that knot area, so you know it's not going to pull apart. So I kind of work it all the way in and do that all the way up until it's done, and then I leave it to dry. It's Elmer's, so it doesn't take very long. But then I go over to the other side, and then I don't have to worry about this knot coming loose. And then I can tie this wherever I want. Again, getting it nice and tight, watching my tension, and then cutting it off. So, in the end, it will look like this. Okay, the moment everybody's been waiting for, the actual weaving. Our stick is ready to go. we have needles and something to weave with. So I'm picking 2 different colors of yarn today. And normally I like to work with nice long pieces, but because I want to show you as much as I can, I'm going to be working with shorter pieces. I prefer to work with a needle, but I want to show you how to work with a bobby pin. And just slip the yarn in. Make sure you watch your tail end because it's easy to pull right out. Take your stick and pick a side to start on and leave yourself a tail. And then it is just over under. And sometimes, because we're working with natural materials, things like to stick in the bark and in our glued twine. And then just go over, under, over, under. And then you want to pull it tight, but not too tight because you don't want to distort the top and bottom. You want to try to maintain a nice straight line. So now that we've come over this way, we come back around, making sure we're doing the opposite the next time around. So that was under, so now we want it to be over. And then you just kind of pull off to the side. There we go. So now we're going to make this one a little bit crazier. Now that you've seen the basic weave, we're going to add a little bit of an angle to this. And we do that by not going all the way down to the bottom. I like to do at least 2 rows. And now we're getting to the end. We're going to want to leave a tail again. Leave that out the back. And now cut ourselves another piece. Put our bobby pin back on. And because this one ended up from the back, we're going to start from the front. Again, leave yourself a tail. Now, I've got a little bit of a slope going there, and even though I'm not done with it, that's what makes it nice. You pull that off, put that tail off to the side, and now you can go to another color. So the fewer tails you have at the end, the quicker things will be. But okay, I'm going to show you how to do this with the bobby pin first, but then I am going to move on to my needle because it's much easier to do this with the needle. So, keeping the tail. And because all of these come over and around and down, we want to kind of keep that going. And then, because we want to keep that slope going up, if we go up to here, if we come down, so if we do this, we can end up with some gaps. I don't like the gaps. So, to prevent that, you kind of spread these back apart so you can see the individual yarn lines. And this is a little bit harder to do with the bobby pin because of the space at the top. But you go into that one, pulling it through that loop. And bringing it back down. And then go over to the next one. And do that same one. So now if I were to go up here like this, I would actually be bringing it to the next loop. So I want to make sure that I stay in that first opening. You want to pull it tight, but not too tight. And now you can see how they just blend right in together. I'm going to go through there, making sure I can clear the bottom there. We've got a nice diagonal going where everything just blends right into each other and doesn't have any gaps. So this is the most basic weave, the over-under, every single one. If this is something you end up liking, you can find many different types of stitches to do to give it different looks. So then you have to decide where you want to end this. So if we look at that first side, there are holes over here, and we can leave it like that. Or we keep working and filling in those holes. So these are also fairly straight on both sides. But you can see that there's definitely more room left at the top than there is at the bottom. So that's where you don't go all the way down when trying to fill in that upper section. So I might stop there on this one, and kind of like how we did that angle, you do that same type of a thing. Alright, so now this is how we finish it off. So that tail that you left, and this is where a needle comes in very handy and is much easier to do with this than the bobby pin. So now you kind of slide it through a few of them. Don't pull it too tight because you don't want to make it noticeable. So then you snip that one off and then work your way across doing that same thing. So that one comes out the front, so we want to come to the back, and if you stay within the same color, so doing white into the white and not going into the purple, it's much less noticeable. And if you decide in your head as you're doing it, what side is the front side and what side is the back side, I would always do them on the same side. So to me, this is the front and this is the back. So I'm putting all of my tails and hiding them in the back. And because we finished up on this side over here, I'm working my way from the end back to the beginning, because we want to leave that original tail off to the side, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Let's get these other little ones first. Okay, so we've got that original start left there. So if you leave this a bit longer, which I usually leave longer than this, it allows you to go back in to fill up these holes now that you're done, so that it matches the other side. I didn't really leave enough for that, but we'll see how much we can get done. So now you just kind of keep working it in, doing that every other. You're just working from the other direction. And then pretty much run out there. Now I will finish it off. Kind of work your way there. So there, you have a nice front, and the back isn't too bad either. All right, now that you've gone through the basic weaving process and kind of gotten a little bit of a feel for it, let's take a look at some other things. So we know how I like to pick up sticks off the ground and use that Y shape. I can definitely have a lot of fun with these. But instead of just staying flat like we did earlier, what else can we do? So this was a stick that I found that had 2 different Ys on it, gave it a little bit more volume. This one here, I left a stick for a little bit more interest. And this is actually using ribbon off of a piñata. So anything you can find, you can use. Now let's start to go a little larger. And this one here has some bends in it. So that way I can kind of get some different planes. And then there's going really big. So this one here has a lower part here, upper part here. I will continue this up and wrap it around to here so I kind of get a glove type shape. And then if I'm getting really crazy, I'll actually put another little strip across here. We'll see how that one goes. All right, so now utilizing live sticks. You can do big pieces like this. This is one where I used a nylon type material. But I've had a lot of fun with bending lately. So this is one where I bent the Y over to meet itself and did more of a spider web type shape, that this will just continue to go around and get larger as I work on it. And then I've taken single sticks that are fairly straight, bent them around, wrapped them at the bottom. I'll let these dry a little bit to maintain their shape, and I can either do some type of a spider web or a dream catcher, whatever I want to do with it. So definitely a lot of possibilities there. I hope this is something you guys will have fun with, something you'll try to experiment with and share with us on our Facebook page.